Happy Thursday. Welcome in to this live edition of NFL Daily, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for spending part of your afternoon with us. We got a loaded show on tap as we'll catch up to speed with the latest news and rumors from across the National Football League, talking Russell Wilson. We'll also get you an update on Saquon Barkley and Mac Jones coming up in just a bit. Also, later on, we will break down the top 25 free agents that will be available to sign for any team beginning on Monday. We'll go over that complete list. We'll get some predictions of where they could end up later. And then we will also do Q&A mailbag today. Use hashtag NFL or Super Chat to get on the mailbag portion of the show that will bring you here in just a little while from right now. As you guys file in, shout out your city. We'll shout you out as we're live and out of the gates ready to go here on this Thursday. Tyler Jones here. Jeffrey Cooperstein. Coop is in the house here with me today.
Danger.
Coop, been a minute since we've had you on NFL Daily, but glad to have you here, man. How we doing?
I am thrilled to be back on NFL Daily, our flagship program here at Chat Sports. NFL free agency fast approaching. You have March Madness. Oh, it's a good sports week.
Oh, it is. Definitely so. We got our eyes right now. Coop and I are big college basketball fans.
Big time.
Some of the biggest college basketball fans in this office. And we got our monitor set on the Missouri Valley tournament in St. Louis. Belmont beating Valpo 38-14 in the first half right now. It's awesome, baby. College basketball. Can't beat it. Certainly excited for the tournament here in a couple weeks. The tournament and March Madness. Going to be a wild next couple of weeks.
Always a wild couple of weeks in March, man. This is March, as one would say. It's fantastic.
We sleep in May, as one would say. Shout out your city. Let us know where you're at. We're coming at you from the Chat Sports Studios here in downtown Dallas, Texas on this Thursday. I see Lord Mobile says, fly, Eagles, fly. I see Mike is in Wake Forest. Let's see, where else? Got Juan Hernandez in Vegas. Juan, I was just in Vegas over the weekend, actually. Love going out to Vegas. Had a great time. Went to the NASCAR race, saw Little John perform, so it was a good weekend for yours truly. Stayed at the Tuscany in Vegas.
Never been.
Where do you usually stay when you go to Vegas?
So I've stayed a couple places. Paris,
Okay.
the Luxor, and MGM.
Okay.
Those are the three places I've stayed.
Okay. The last time, before this most recent time, I stayed at the Sahara.
Okay.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad. Never been.
Checking in, we got Joshua in Minneapolis. Mike is shouting out the Bears. Let us know where you're watching from. Shout out your city. We'll shout you out as we get this thing started. We mentioned free agency beginning on Monday. Who is a player you want your favorite team to sign? Let us know who the team is and also the player that you would like to see your favorite team ultimately end up with. Coop, you're over on our Steelers channel a lot with Jack Sperry. We're going to be talking about Russell Wilson today, but for Steeler fan Coop, who are some guys that you and Sperry got your eyes on potentially to join the Steelers?
Yeah, I honestly was going to say Russell Wilson because I think they are a quarterback away from being true contenders. So he'd be the top guy that I'd pick for the Steelers. I'd also be looking at a couple of offensive linemen as well to try to improve that. A center, maybe a guy like Aaron Brewer from the Titans.
Yeah.
I think those are their two biggest needs. So I'm going to go Russell Wilson and Aaron Brewer.
So you all can find me when I'm not doing NFL Daily over on Seahawks today. And we have talked a lot about Patrick Queen going to Seattle, potentially rejoining Mike McDonald, his former defensive coordinator there in Baltimore, in Seattle. That's been a big possibility. I think the number one thing for the Seahawks is just keeping Leonard Williams around.
Absolutely.
Leonard Williams is a free agent. They gave up a second and a fifth-round pick for him. That's number one priority is keeping Leonard Williams there. Checking in on the chat. Jersey says the same thing. Patrick Queen in Seattle. I got a Live Feed says Xavier McKinney to the Packers. Mike wants Saquon Barkley and Justin Simmons. Vic wants Chris Jones with the Raiders. That would ruffle some feathers if Chris Jones leaves the three-time Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs to go to the arch-rival Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, in division as well, that would be something for sure. I mean, I'm sure Chiefs fans would not be thrilled about that. Raiders fans would be very happy because Chris Jones is awesome. You could
Yeah.
argue it's Aaron Donald and then Chris Jones as far as defensive tackle.
I think so. I think he's the most underrated player in football.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
And if he were to go to the Raiders, that'd be a huge pickup for them.
True Neville Latkins says Saquon to Dallas.
That would be so Jerry Jones if he were to spend big on a running back. He did it with Zeke.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me if he did it again. And the Cowboys need so much more than a running back, which is exactly why I could see them signing.
So I did see, speaking of rumors today, Derrick Henry is buying a house in Dallas.
Yes, but for not to burst anyone's bubble, Derrick Henry has lived in Dallas every offseason since he's been in the NFL. So he has a home in Dallas. I think he's just buying a new home.
Oh, all right. Sorry, folks. What could have been?
Could have been.
What could have been? Board Skyler says KJ Wright to the Niners. He took an assistant coach job there.
KJ Wright did?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So much for that, Seahawks. That KJ Wright goes to rival. Bruce Irvin criticized him for it, called him out, saying that he betrayed the Seahawks for that.
Wow.
Let's see. We got Derrick Henry to Philly, says Ghostman Ron. I got Joshua saying Saquon to Minnesota. Mike says Diggs to San Francisco. All right, we're going to talk a lot about Russell Wilson today in our first segment of today's show about the possibility of him going to Pittsburgh. Where will Russell Wilson sign in NFL free agency? Coop, I think it's down to a few teams. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Atlanta Falcons, maybe the Minnesota Vikings. That's what I would call the short list.
Agreed. Yeah, not to spoil anything in our first segment, but I think the Steelers are the heavy favorite right now.
They got the inside track.
They got the inside track, and they're the one that needs him. I mean, Kenny Pickett is an absolute joke. He lost his job to Mason Rudolph at the end of last season, so that's all you need to know there. If I'm the Steelers, he's getting paid the same regardless because he has that offset clause in his contract. If I'm the Steelers, I'm putting a full court press on and trying to go get Russ, man.
Yeah, and it's not going to cost you a ton either. He's willing to play for the vet minimum, it sounds like.
Because if he plays for the vet minimum, the Broncos still pay him $36 million or whatever it is.
Right. For the money he takes elsewhere, that gets deducted from the money the Broncos have to pay him.
Correct.
So he would be wise to play for the minimum
if
wherever
he wants to
goes.
F the Broncos, especially.
Exactly. Checking in the chat, Kevin says Steelers. Mike says Russ to New England. Livefeed says Fields to the Seahawks. Magnolia, Texas. Checking in from Waco, I assume. Chip and Joanna. Waco.
Chip and Joanna?
Chip and Joanna.
Okay.
Chip and Joanna checking in the chat. Says I'd be pissed if I were a Patriots fan. They signed Wilson. Wade Johnson says I'm on board for Ciara. Here we go, Steelers. Bonk.
I love it.
Jimmy says Houston. Let's see. White and Boyd to the Pats, says Vang. Magnolia says Barkley to the Texans. Just seems like a perfect fit. Lacking
Saquon
says
on the
Cousins to New
Texans
England.
would kind of move mountains. That'd be a good sign.
That's a team that
they have Dameon Pierce, though.
Every team needs two running backs.
No doubt. That's true. In this league, absolutely.
That could be a needle mover for sure. All right, so that's that. More on Russell Wilson coming up in just a bit. I got about 87 people watching right now, 23 likes. I need to get to at least 35 likes to start today's show. I'm not even asking for half the audience. I just need to get to 35 likes. That's 11 more, and then we can start today's show. That's all I ask is 11 more likes, and we can get this thing started. While I wait on my 11 likes, let's tell you what's ahead here on this edition of NFL Daily, as we'll have the latest news and rumors from across the National Football League, talking Russell Wilson, Saquon Barkley, Mac Jones. Then we'll do a Q&A mailbag. If you super chat, your questions will get answered first, or you can use hashtag NFL to get on the mailbag as well. And then we'll break down the top 25 free agents of 2024. We got a full list that we'll run through coming up in just a matter of moments. By the way, just for you, Coop, on the weigh-ins, let's get to those after we talk about that said player, if that makes sense. We have Cousins as the second one on that list. Let's go to that weigh-in after we talk about him.
On the free agents list?
Free agents.
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
just,
I got
just
you.
making sure.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. All right, without further ado, we did reach 40 likes. So very good, guys.
Exceeded expectations.
Exceeded expectations. Very well done. Golf clap for everybody out there watching. Without further ado, segment 1, news and rumors, starts right now here on this live edition of NFL Daily. Let's get going. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us here on this edition of NFL Daily, powered by Chat Sports. We got a loaded show ahead. Let's tell you what's on tap. We're going to start with an update out of Pittsburgh as Russell Wilson is being linked to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll tell you everything that's going on there coming up in just a moment. Also, Saquon Barkley, could he be leaving the New York Giants to go to the arch rival Philadelphia Eagles? Got a fascinating situation going on there. And the Seattle Seahawks have a brand new head coach in Mike Macdonald. They've already committed to Geno Smith, but could that stop them from bringing in another quarterback like Mac Jones? We'll dive into that possibility of Jones heading to the Pacific Northwest coming up in just a bit. Before we do, with free agency just around the corner beginning on Monday, if you want your team to sign the right free agents, like today's video, don't jinx it. Do your part. Like the video. Send some good vibes your team's direction. Don't make me come find you because you didn't like today's video. Do your part, and we'll get started with today's show. Could Russell Wilson be cooking in Pittsburgh? According to a new report as of today, the Pittsburgh Steelers plan to meet with Russell Wilson, and they have interest in signing the former Denver Broncos and Seattle Seahawks quarterback. Here's more from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. The Steelers are interested in signing Russell Wilson and are tentatively planning to meet with the former Denver Broncos quarterback before the official start of free agency next week, sources have told the Post-Gazette. Wilson, 35, has an interest in joining the Steelers, but he is already talking with at least one other team after the Broncos gave him permission to seek employment elsewhere before they release him. Now, personally, when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers situation, I don't hate the idea if the Steelers feel like they're a quarterback away. They obviously have a very good defense. They have a very good run game. And could Russell Wilson potentially be that missing piece? Maybe. Now, at 35 years of age, and with questions about his arm strength, having a down year a couple years ago, this year was better. I don't know what the length of Russell Wilson is going to be, how much he has left in the tank. Is it another year? Is it 2? Is it 4 or 5 years? But if the Steelers feel like that he gives them their best chance to win with Russ playing on the minimum, then I could see why they would potentially want to do this. It also tells me they don't believe in Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett last year ended up getting beat out by Mason Rudolph, and Mason Rudolph took him to the postseason. Russell Wilson, he is going to be a future Hall of Famer, a 9-time Pro Bowler, a Super Bowl champion. We've seen him play at a high level. We've seen him lead a team to a championship. But what version of Russell Wilson would the Pittsburgh Steelers be getting? If they got the version that we saw in 2023, that threw for 26 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, got him on a minimum contract playing like that, I think the Steelers would be okay with that. If they get the version of Russell Wilson that we saw in 2022, that would be a colossal failure, and the Steelers would have a lot of problems there. So what do you guys think? I don't hate the idea personally with the circumstance the Steelers are in. What do you guys think? Our pinned comment today, should the Steelers sign Russell Wilson? Why for yes and for no? Why in the comment section, tell us what you think. We have NFL hats on sale now. Some of the hats are up to 50% off. Also some free shipping involved as well on several of the hats out there. Rep your favorite team, all sorts of different hats to choose from the baseball cap style to the flat bill and more. Check it out for yourself today at chatsports.com/NFL hats. Be repping your favorite team. Chatsports.com/NFL hats to get yours today. Plenty more to choose from besides just the ones we're showing you on your screen as well. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. That's chatsports.com/NFL hats. to enemy territory. Could that be the case for Saquon Barkley of the New York Football Giants? According to a new report, there is mutual interest between both the Philadelphia Eagles and Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley has spent his entire career with the New York Football Giants. They ultimately decided not to franchise tag him, so he'll be an unrestricted free agent here in the next couple days. What about Philly? Let's start with this report from the WIP morning show in Philadelphia. As they tweeted out first thing this morning, the Eagles have interest in signing Saquon Barkley. That was followed up with another tweet from Ryan Dunleavy, who covers the Philadelphia Eagles, saying that interest is mutual. Saquon to the Eagles is a real possibility. I've had the Eagles on my list of landing spots for weeks. Now, I know some of you are going to say, how could Saquon leave the New York Football Giants to go within the division down the road to their hated rivals, the Philadelphia Eagles? And the truth of the matter is this. Saquon owes no loyalties whatsoever to the New York Giants. They have been a mess of an organization. They've made a lot of mistakes. A lot of malpractice has gone on. And if you're Saquon Barkley, okay, you're coming towards the end of the prime of your career at this point. You have to capitalize and put yourself in the best position to succeed. If you're Saquon, you got to be thinking about, okay, where can I go compete for championships? Where can I go get paid? And as far as the Philadelphia Eagles go, if he wants to compete for a championship at a high level, the Eagles are a great fit for that. Saquon Barkley, former first-round pick, a two-time Pro Bowler, former NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. And the thing that would be interesting about Saquon in the Eagles offense is that we've seen that this Eagles offense is very effective about getting their guys out in space, as both pass catchers and receivers. And you got to think that Saquon's role would increase in the passing game, comparably speaking to what he did last year with the New York Giants. He had 4 receiving touchdowns, but with 41 catches, you would think with Jalen Hurts, that offense and the RPOs they run, that they would find a variety of different ways to use Saquon Barkley there. So let's ask you guys, where will Saquon Barkley sign in free agency? Is it to a team like Philly, or is it somewhere else? Weigh in the comment section. Give us your prediction where you think he'll end up. We got a wild couple of days here on NFL Daily ahead, as we are your go-to destination for all things NFL free agency. We're talking about the big signings. We're going to be live a couple times next week with reaction to these signings as they happen in real time. If you love the National Football League, you want to stay up to date with what's going on throughout the NFL free agency, you need to subscribe to the channel. YouTube.com/Seahawks TV, or YouTube.com/ChatSports TV. You can also check out our Seahawks channel too. To subscribe now to stay up to date what's happening in NFL free agency. Lock us in. You'll be glad you did. Speaking of the Seahawks, could they be jonesing around for Mac Jones? The New England Patriots quarterback, his days appear to be numbered in Foxborough, and where could he potentially go next? According to a new report, the Seattle Seahawks are the team to watch to add to the Patriots quarterback. And just a few days ago, we heard from the Seahawks organization that they were committing to Geno Smith to return to the roster next year. Or could Mac potentially fit into all of this? Let's explain. More from the Boston Sports Herald's Greg Bedard. One thing that I've picked up in the last couple of weeks is that one team to keep an eye on for Mac Jones is the Seattle Seahawks. I think John Schneider is a guy who looks back at his college evaluations of players. I think that he liked Mac Jones coming out. I think a lot of people are wondering what exactly happened to him here, and they're probably doing their due diligence with the Patriots on that. Personally, from my perspective, I don't hate this idea. Now, let me explain further what the Seahawks would potentially be doing here with Mac Jones. You're not bringing him in to bench Geno Smith, okay? You'd be bringing him in to sit behind Geno Smith, to be a quality backup, and to get that second chance to get out of New England. Because let's face it, you had Matt Patricia as your OC at one point. You had a horrible offensive line, no skill position players. Mac Jones was set up to fail. And the Seahawks did this before with Geno Smith, where they took a guy that was not successful as a starter previously and turned him into a Pro Bowl quarterback. Potentially now you bring in Mac Jones and you back up Geno Smith. And if something were to happen to Geno, if he got banged up, and he has been injured some the last couple of years, give Mac Jones a shot and see what he could do with a fresh start there potentially. Could be a nice find, not cost a ton for the Seahawks to potentially pull this off. Mac Jones, his career numbers, his rookie season was his best, 22 touchdowns, 13 picks. Last year was a bit of a debacle of sorts, a less than 65% completion percentage, 2,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 12 picks. And I don't think this trade would cost a ton for Seattle if they want to do this. I think you give up a sixth-round pick, and he could be your backup quarterback. I certainly would take him over Drew Lock, that's for certain, and potentially finding a quarterback of the future, with that said. More from the Boston Sports Journal on the situation. Geno Smith is not their franchise quarterback for multiple years, so why not take a chance on a flyer on Mac Jones to get him evaluated? Now, I'll say this. I don't think Mac's a franchise quarterback by any means. I think if you're the Seahawks, you have to think of this as an opportunity like the Trey Lance trade that the Cowboys had with the San Francisco 49ers last year. Just because they brought in Trey Lance didn't mean that they were done with Dak all of a sudden. They brought in Trey Lance because he had potential, wanted to evaluate him and see what they got out of Trey Lance, essentially. I think that's what you're looking at here with Seattle is you look at Mac Jones, you're not bringing him in to take over Geno Smith's job, but to sit behind Geno and give him an opportunity if something were to present itself. So let's ask you guys, should the Seahawks trade for Mac Jones? Type T for trade, P for pass. Weigh in the comment section and let us know what you think. If you enjoyed today's show, we certainly would appreciate it. If you liked today's video, show us some love, and we shall see you next time right here on NFL Daily. All right, one segment down, two to go.
We have a little breaking news in the NFL. It appears the Chicago Bears and Jalen Johnson have agreed to a 4-year contract.
Wow.
Worth $76 million.
$76 million?
The Bears lock up their star cornerback.
How about that? They originally put the franchise tag on him, right?
They did, yes. They placed the franchise tag on him, but they came to an agreement.
How about that? And his name came up in trade speculation at the deadline.
Well, he requested a trade.
Yeah.
And then, they didn't move him, and then it looks like he signed long-term with the Bears. 43.8 of it guaranteed at signing, with 28 in the first year.
What a wild turn of events.
Yeah, it goes from requesting a trade to getting almost $80 million. That's crazy.
We've seen that happen more often as of late. Lamar last year, Deebo Samuel the year prior.
Yes, no doubt.
Where it's changing today's NFL. Just because you request the trade doesn't mean it's over with.
And it absolutely. And because a request is not a demand, number one.
Right.
Number two, the team, especially if you're a guy like Jalen Johnson, who is an elite corner in this league, why would the Bears trade you when they know that they have the franchise tag and they know they can get a deal done?
Right. Exactly. It's a great point. We're asking you guys, should the Steelers sign Russell Wilson? Y for yes, N for no. Our poll question right now, 114 votes so far. 70% of you saying yes, 30% saying no. Mailbag segment coming up next. Coop, we could use some questions, though. How can people get in the mailbag?
So you guys can get in the mailbag one of two ways. You can either use hashtag NFL with your question, or you can super chat to get on today's show. It's rather easy, and if you want your question answered by NFL expert Tyler Jones himself, use hashtag NFL or super chat.
Yes, and I can tell you this right now. You send in a question, you're probably making it on the mailbag.
I can almost guarantee it.
Almost.
Shout out to Rashard Lee. Shout out to Live Feed. Shout out to Mike. Elephant in the room as well.
So I'm checking in the chat right now, like Live Feed and Mike and these others. Like, you guys are making great comments, but we can't throw them on screen unless you use the hashtag NFL.
That's correct.
Or super chat. So here's your chance. Like, Mike, there we go, just right there.
Attaboy, Mike.
Here's your chance to have your day in the sun and to get your questions on screen with our mailbag segments. I also specifically want some free agent questions as well. With a free agency starting this week.
If you have draft questions, that's okay, but we prefer free agency.
Yes, exactly. If you have trade questions, that's fine too, but we would prefer some free agency questions. So there we go. Rent-to-Fur88's got a question in there.
I love it.
Let me get two more, and then we'll start the mailbag segment.
That sounds like a great plan.
Two more questions, and then we'll get started. Hashtag NFL or Super Chat. Mike's doing a great job getting some questions in. Much appreciated, Mike. And then after this segment, we'll break down the top 25 free agents of the class of 2024. We'll get to that coming up in just a few moments. Hashtag NFL or Super Chat.
If you guys aren't hydrating, make sure you hydrate.
Yes. High quality H2O. Michael's got a question. There we go.
Cool.
We got enough questions now.
Yeah.
So we told you all that we're keeping an eye on the Missouri Valley tournament. Belmont beating the crap out of Valpo.
26 points up at the half.
48-22. Goodness.
Some would say brutal.
Brutal, indeed. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Mailbag time here on this live edition of NFL Daily. You guys can keep sending your questions as we go along through the mailbag, hashtag NFL or Super Chat. I'm ready to go, Coop. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Without further ado, here we go. Mailbag time. Let's get at it. You're watching NFL Daily, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for stopping by. It is mailbag time. This comes from our Thursday live show where we react to your questions in real time. People use the hashtag NFL or they Super Chat, and we answer them right when they send it to us. And if you missed out on this live mailbag, don't worry. We are your NFL offseason headquarters here on the channel as we're going to be covering free agency a lot over the next few days. We're talking trades, draft, and more. If you love the National Football League, this is the channel for you. Can we get 20 subs off today's show? The bosses don't think we can do that. Can we prove them wrong? Subscribe now for free. Lock us in, youtube.com/chatsportstv, and we'll get started with today's show. First question in the mailbag this week comes from Cool Guy 43. What will happen to OBJ? So, Odell Beckham Jr. set to hit free agency. And it's interesting. You've looked at OBJ, and he's played for 3 different teams in his last 2 seasons. Was with the Cleveland Browns, got traded to the LA Rams, took a year off as he recovered from the torn ACL, and then he came back and played for the Baltimore Ravens. This past year with the Baltimore Ravens, it was up and down. We saw flashes of brilliance for OBJ where he looked like the old OBJ, right? And then there were other times where he kind of just disappeared, where you might as well have put him on a milk carton because he was missing, right? I mean, that's what we saw at OBJ at times. So what I think, OBJ got paid a decent amount of money last year. I don't think that he's going to get that same money that he got a season ago. And I think the Ravens are going to find a way to bring OBJ back. Maybe not for the money he got last go-round, but the Ravens need help with the receiver position. The Ravens are very close to competing among the best in the AFC for a potential Super Bowl title. I think he ultimately ends up back in Baltimore, but he'll have some teams interested. Let's ask you, will the Ravens bring back OBJ? Our pinned comment today, if you believe they will, type OBJ for yes. If not, type no BJ for no. OBJ for yes, no BJ for no. Let us know in the comments section. Alex writes in, any chance the Ravens re-sign Patrick Queen? Now, this is where it gets difficult for the Baltimore Ravens. Well, I do think they find a way to bring OBJ back. I don't think Patrick Queen's coming back. I think the Ravens basically had a choice between Justin Madubuike and Patrick Queen of who they wanted to bring back. And Madubuike is more important at the interior of the defensive line. He's a better football player than Patrick Queen. And you essentially already found his replacement with drafting Trenton Simpson last year out of Clemson. I think Patrick Queen, they're going to let walk. Now, what's malpractice on the part of Eric DeCosta, the Ravens GM, if he walks away for nothing, is the fact that you could have traded him last offseason and gotten something for him. Instead, you're going to have to settle for a future comp pick, which won't be close to the value you could have gotten in a trade here. To me, that's a missed opportunity. I would be surprised if Queen is back in Baltimore. I know they've said that they want him back and all this, and that they want to throw the money out there. They believe he's an all-pro caliber player, but we've gone this long and there's still no deal. So I don't think Patrick Queen's coming back, but we'll see. Where do you guys think Patrick Queen will sign in free agency? If it's not Baltimore, where will it be? Way in the comment section, give me a team that comes to mind that you think Patrick Queen will ultimately end up playing for. Mike writes in, who would you sign for KC, Hollywood Brown or Tyler Boyd? So you look at the Kansas City Chiefs offense, and it's an incredible story last year of them winning the Super Bowl under the circumstances they did, of having an awful receiving core. And the thing that's been missing since Tyreek Hill left town was the vertical passing game, the deep threat. Now, what it's caused is Patrick Mahomes has become a more mature passer because he's not just chucking it downfield and taking a bunch of chances that are unnecessary. He's become a more accurate passer in the process of not forcing things downfield. Now I think's the time where Patrick Mahomes is matured enough as a passer that you go get him that deep threat to try to stretch out the passing game again. And for me, a guy like Hollywood Brown would be a perfect fit for what the Kansas City Chiefs are trying to do. Rashee Rice, I thought, took a huge step in the right direction. You look at Travis Kelce, he's going to be another year older, so you got to start thinking about, okay, how can we make this receiving core better, knowing that we're probably going to take another step back with Travis here. I think Hollywood Brown makes a ton of sense, and I don't think he would cost a ton either after not having a great run with the Arizona Cardinals the last two seasons. Elvin in the room writes in, how aggressive do you think the Philadelphia Eagles will be in free agency? Howie Roseman is one of the most aggressive GMs in the NFL. Every offseason, Howie is taking chances, whether it comes to free agency or trades. They are always one of the teams to watch when it comes to the free agency period. I believe that we're going to see the Eagles be aggressive, make some moves to try to move heaven and earth of sorts, because you look at that Eagles team and, they did not even come close to expectations this past season. They were the best team in the NFL up until November, and then things fell apart from there. And so they got to do some soul searching and try to retool this roster a bit to get back into championship contention, and I believe they can. Junior writes in, should the Patriots sign Joe Flacco and the Patriots draft a quarterback at the number 3 pick? I like Joe Flacco a lot, and I was very impressed with what he did with the Cleveland Browns. I was glad that he won the NFL Comeback Player of the Year and not that fraud DeMar Hamlin this past year. With that said, if I'm Joe Flacco, I don't want anything to do with the New England Patriots. The Patriots are likely going to be the worst team in the NFL next year. They at least have the worst roster on paper. If you're Joe Flacco, okay, I would do the exact same thing that I did with the Cleveland Browns, where I just wait on the sidelines, wait for somebody to get hurt, and I know I'm going to be the first phone call. Then you don't have to go through training camp and all that shenanigans and all that. It wouldn't be a bad idea for New England to bring Joe Flacco in and make him their starter, and then whoever they draft at 3, whether it be Drake May or Jaden Daniels, sit behind Joe Flacco until they're ready. But I think it'd be a waste of Joe Flacco's time to go to New England, if we're going to be honest. Michael writes in, can the Falcons afford help on defense if they sign Captain Kirk? Great question. That remains to be seen. The Falcons are very close. They're literally a quarterback away from being the favorites in the NFC South. Cousins could be the difference there. And then you hope to find some cash. It's going to be very close. I think that if you spend the money on Cousins, that's pretty much going to be your spending. I would not expect a whole lot of other free agent signings after that. At that point, you're hoping to build through the draft. The Falcons have the number 8 pick, I believe, so they should be picking high throughout the draft and go get more defensive talent from there. So if you get Cousins, as they say, everything should work itself out. Who's the player you want your team to sign in free agency? There's plenty of great players available this go-round. Weigh in the comment section. Let us know a player that comes to mind that you would like to see play for your favorite squad. Thanks for joining us here on this edition of NFL Daily. Subscribe now. Lock us in for the latest happenings across the National Football League all offseason long, and we'll see you next time. All right. One more segment to go. We will go over the top 25 free agents that are available. But first, who is a player you want your team to sign in free agency? Coop, we're going to go over this list here in just a second, but this is one of the most talented free agency classes I can remember in a while.
There is a lot of big names out there in free agency right now. There's a lot of positions with a lot of depth, and I think we're going to see a lot of movement here. It's going to be exciting for sure.
The thing I'm surprised about, Coop, is how many teams just ignored their franchise tag, didn't use it to keep some marquee players.
I always say that. It's like, why not use the franchise tag? If you have a player who may be a little bit overpaid on that tag, I still think it's worth it because you get to keep a good player.
Right.
What, there were only 6 or 7 franchise tags used?
8.
There were 8, okay.
8, and then a transition tag with the Patriots and Kyle Duggar.
So exactly a fourth of the league used a franchise tag plus Kyle Duggar. I'm surprised. I would think it should be at least half. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not a GM for a reason.
But you have to have the money and the cap space to still use the franchise tag. Looking at the chat, who's the player you want your team to sign free agency? Elephant in the Room wants Saquon Barkley in Philly. Mike wants Saquon Simmons and Tyler Boyd. Jr. wants Calvin Ridley. Mike says Poyer. Laura says Justin Simmons. Sivang says Adam. Elephant in the Room wants comp picks. There you have it. All right. Without further ado, let's go over the top 25 free agents that are available to sign in NFL free agency. And we will break that down here on this live edition of NFL Daily, our final segment coming up right now. You're watching NFL Daily by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here. Thanks for joining us on today's show. We have a list of the top 25 free agents available. We'll go over the list, talk about some potential destinations for some of these guys in just a matter of moments. Before we do, let's set the tone right away. Who is your favorite team? Spam them in the comment section. Show some love for the team you rep week in and week out. Let us know who it is, and we'll get started with today's show. We begin with Chris Jones. Chris Jones did not receive the franchise tag from the Kansas City Chiefs. He's made it known that he would like to stay in Kansas City, but he will have plenty of suitors out there for one of the best defensive tackles in the entire NFL. Then we find a quarterback. Kirk Cousins hits free agency for the second time in his career. He previously left the Washington Commanders to go to Minnesota, and there is a belief that the Minnesota Vikings would like to keep him. The Atlanta Falcons have been talked about as a possibility as well. Cousins, now at the back end of his prime, still looks like a top 10 quarterback in this league. What does Kirk Cousins have left for one more run potentially? And is it back in Minnesota with Justin Jefferson again? What do you guys think? Will Cousins return to the Minnesota Vikings when it's all said and done? It's our pinned comment today. I lean towards yes, but I'm not very confident about that. What do you guys think? Let us know. Why for yes, in for no if Cousins is back in Minnesota or not. Next up, we find Christian Wilkins from the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins did not put the franchise tag on Christian Wilkins after having a career season with a career-high 9 sacks this past year. If you're in need of a defensive tackle but don't want to pay for Chris Jones, Christian Wilkins could be your guy. Danielle Hunter of the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings didn't have enough money to go around for everybody, and it looks like his days are numbered in Minnesota. but he's coming off a fantastic season himself, 16.5 sacks in 2023. Baker Mayfield of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, after playing last season for just $4 million, is expected to get a significant pay raise. Seems like the Bucs are the odds-on favorites to keep Baker Mayfield, but if talks do end up falling apart, you better believe that Baker will have a number of suitors available if he so chooses to leave the Bay. Then we find offensive guard Robert Hunt on the list. A lot of teams needing help on the interior of the offensive line. Chase Young at edge rusher for San Francisco. The Niners brought him in as a rental of sorts when they traded for him at the trade deadline. There wasn't the expectation that they were going to bring him back, but they didn't give up a ton to get that trade either, so it worked out pretty well for San Fran. Meanwhile, the Seattle Seahawks, their top free agent this year is Leonard Williams. They also traded for him at the trade deadline as well. He was their best player on their defense in the second half of the season. They gave up a second and a fifth-round pick. Seattle would love to bring Leonard Williams back, but does Mike McDonald want him back? Do they have the money to keep him around? That remains to be seen. Bryce Huff of the New York Jets at the edge rusher position is a possibility for somebody to sign out there as well. Bryce Huff, somebody that has put up good numbers, that's looked the part, but has been on a dumpster fire of an organization. Does Bryce Huff want to compete at a top level? That remains to be seen. At corner, we find Kendall Fuller. Kendall Fuller began his career with Washington, goes to Kansas City, won a Super Bowl title there, ends up back in Washington, and has had a pretty good career for himself. What will the next chapter bring for Kendall Fuller as one of the best corners in free agency this go-round? Not a great year for corners on the free agent route, but Kendall Fuller, one of the best out there. Who is the best player available in free agency this go-round? Is it a guy like Kendall Fuller, or is it somebody else? Weigh in the comments section. Give us a name that you believe it is. Now we turn to the tackle spot. Tyron Smith of the Dallas Cowboys makes the list. The Cowboys have had a great O-line over the last few years. Will Jerry get the money to keep Smith in Dallas? We shall see. The Houston Texans defensive end Jonathan Grenard on the list. Grenard, one of the best players at his position in football. The Texans do have cash, though. If they want to bring him back, they have the money to do it. The Detroit Lions had a fantastic season this year, and their O-line was really good, in large part due to Jonah Jackson at the offensive guard spot. Will he stay or will he go elsewhere? We shall see. One of the best comeback stories this year, he took a gamble and it paid off. Calvin Ridley with the Jacksonville Jaguars was really good, despite the Jags having a disappointing year. He's looking to get paid because he would like to be able to place some more bets on himself in the future. But you better believe that Calvin Ridley has the intangibles to be a number one receiver wherever he goes to his next destination. Jags probably not going to have the funds to bring him back. Then the Steelers offensive guard Kevin Dotson also on the list as well. Dotson, one of the better players in football at the offensive guard spot. Let's see where ultimately he goes from here. NFL hats are on sale now. You can get yours today at chatsports.com/NFL hats. We have a number of hats to choose from the flat bill to the baseball cap style. You can rock with your favorite team. We have plenty of selection to choose from besides just the ones you're seeing on your screen. You can check them out for yourself now at chatsports.com/NFL hats. We offer some of these hats for up to 50% off. Also got some free shipping available as well. Go see it for yourself. Chatsports.com/NFL hats. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. That's chatsports.com/NFL hats. Josh Jacobs of the Las Vegas Raiders is on the list. He's made it known he would like to return to Las Vegas, but as arguably the best back in this year's class, Jacobs is going to have plenty of options out there. The question becomes for him and guys like Derrick Henry, is anyone willing to give them long-term deals? Derrick Henry, in his case, he has made it known. He said that his number one goal is to look to be on a championship contending team, that he's already made plenty of money. Both guys have been linked to the Baltimore Ravens, which leads us to our next team, as Patrick Queen is on this list. The Ravens gave the franchise tag to Justin Madubuike. Patrick Queen will be an unrestricted free agent. He's not expected to return to Baltimore. And the team that's been talked about a lot for Patrick Queen is the Seattle Seahawks, with his former defensive coordinator, Mike Macdonald, now the head coach there in Seattle. Cincinnati, we're on to Cincinnati as we find Jonah Williams at the offensive tackle spot. The Bengals need to do everything they can to keep Jonah Williams around, as the offensive line has had issues over the years, and Joe Burrow needs all the protection he can get. Russell Wilson, he's already available to sign with other teams. He's already had discussions, free to talk to whoever he wants after being released from the Denver Broncos. And he's expected, Russell Wilson is, to be in a situation where he plays for the league minimum, not a ton of money that he'll be given. That way he can get the full money from the Denver Broncos of that guaranteed money that he received in his last contract. Speaking of Russ, where will he sign in NFL free agency? We want to hear from you. Comment in the comment section. Let us know where you think Russ is going to end up. And when Russ signs somewhere, you're going to know about it here at the channel, as we're going to have all off season long, the best NFL content you're going to find out there, from free agency to trades, the draft, and more. We're going to be all over it here on the channel. Subscribe now for free, youtube.com/chatsportstv for the latest happenings across the National Football League. We're going to be live throughout the week next week as well for NFL free agency. Join our NFL free agency frenzy coverage right here on Chat Sports. Subscribe now. You'll be glad you did. Let's finish off the rest of the list now. Hollywood Brown of the Arizona Cardinals had a disappointing last couple of seasons after he was traded from the Baltimore Ravens. He would like to kind of get his career back on track and be that number one receiver that he was expected to be when he came out of Oklahoma. And the Kansas City Chiefs seem to be a team that's talked about a lot with Hollywood Brown there. Saquon Barkley with the New York Football Giants. The Giants have had a lot of issues. They had a disappointing year this past year. Saquon ultimately did not get the tag. Now he hits free agency, and you'd have to think that Saquon would like to play for a contending team, and the Philadelphia Eagles, right there in his own division, have been talked about. Of these running backs, who's the best in this year's free agency class? Is it Josh Jacobs? Is it Saquon Barkley? Is it Derrick Henry? Type J for Josh Jacobs, type S for Saquon Barkley, or type D for Derrick Henry. Let us know in the comments section which one it is. A couple more for you here. The New England Patriots, Big Mike makes this list. Their offensive tackle, who has been one of the few bright spots of sorts for the New England Patriots on their offensive line over the last couple of seasons. DJ Reader, defensive tackle from the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals likely not able to afford to keep him around, as they still got to figure out what to do with T. Higgins and a couple other guys. And then another guy from the New England Patriots, Trent Brown, also on this list as well. And it sounds like the Seattle Seahawks are potentially a team to watch for him, as they've tried to bring him in a couple different times. So there you have it. That's our list of the top 25 free agents of 2024. Thanks for joining us here on the channel. Follow me on X at Tyler Jones Live. You can find me there, and I will see you next time right here on NFL Daily. All right. We made it through the show. So,
Hell of a show.
Coop, who's the best running back of those three?
It's Jacobs, right? I would have to think so. I would say Saquon's probably pretty close, but the injuries scare me.
I think it's Jacobs right now.
Yeah, I would say Jacobs.
Derrick's had the best career of the three.
He has, but he's probably also the one that has the most miles on his body.
Right.
Right now, I would take Jacobs. He'd be my favorite out of those three.
Who do you guys got? J for Josh Jacobs, S for Saquon Barkley, D for Derrick Henry. Weigh in the chat. Let us know what you think. We were about to sign off and call it a day. We have some fantastic coverage coming up next week, though. We'll be live here on NFL Daily for free agency coverage. You'll see me, Jack Sperry, Tom Downey, Harrison Graham, Matthew Peterson, Chase Sr., among others here.
Who knows?
Yeah. So it's going to be a great time. Lock us in. Subscribe to the channel now. Make sure to join us for our live free agency coverage next week. We will see you then. For Jeffrey Cooperstein, I'm Tyler Jones. Have a great weekend. So long, everybody. Thanks for joining us.